All right, so let's we'll call our November regular meeting to order. Any additions to the agenda?
Nope.
Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. All down to consent items. Any questions?
The monitor for 215, the amount of operating funds. I mean, I didn't know, was that a tech? You could take out.
Is that the BDH? Is that
Yeah,
BDH?
I didn't know what that monitor was for.
Yeah, it's monthly monitoring.
Oh, okay. I thought it was an actual physical.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. No question.
What was this one, really, the concrete, is it, do we pay Melissa for the concrete? Is that?
They purchased the stuff and they actually did all the work for us over there.
Okay,
And then we reimbursed her. I
okay,
probably should have put reimbursed there.
okay.
Less than sales tax, but there was, I'll let you talk about that over there. 'Cause I don't know
It's
anything
over
about it.
the sidewalk, like on the slab by the multi-purpose building between the west barn and multi-purpose building.
Did we have a slab there before or no?
No,
It was just kind of gravel, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, nice.
And what's that cell phone dialer?
That's the part of the summer project that y'all approved that goes on to, it's software for our security system. Remember when we were getting all those bogus calls on like Bill's phone, we had to have software put on. That's that.
And this is a bill, but that monthly expenditure graph that we always get, that negative. So I see that you have on there, that's because of the insurance.
Yeah.
So, okay, yikes.
Well, so it was heavy at the end of last year because I had to pay that. And so then that's really a benefit to us because we reimbursed ourselves then as we posted it to the employees. So I did come up with it up front in 23. And then in 23 is when we started with the reimbursement process. Yeah.
Questions? Take a motion to approve the consent items. Second.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Consent items are approved. On correspondence.
we have a thank you note from the family of Larry Schmidt. Thanking us for letting him use the school for his school.
He also called me and they are looking to donate some money and they wanted me to give them some ideas of where. I don't think it's very much. So if y'all have any ideas. When you think about, I thought about the bus barn because he was a bus driver. But he was also,
Softball or baseball.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
that's
did.
something maybe. Tree and.
yeah, and he was big into sports. I remember being
Is
at
it
the
up for the
football.
baseball lights?
Baseball lights, Julie.
Maybe a bowl.
One bowl.
It's very nice. I think we can sure do something that Larry is
Yeah.
passionate about.
Yeah. That's what I thought so too. So, I told him I'd get back with him.
That's really good correspondence.
Move on to public forum. Sue.
What I wanted to do is actually two parts, so briefly discuss the problem now, and then I have a solution to offer next month. But because of the time constraints of public forum, it seemed to be the best way to go about this. I was a little concerned here, either the previous meeting or the one before, when the subject of harassment and bullying came up because of the articles in the Newton paper, and they had so many people speaking at the school board meeting there in Newton. And the gist of what was said here was, we don't have that problem. Well, that's not really true. Baxter does, just as all other schools do. And what I wanted to emphasize was, it is, when you don't effectively address this, it is a violation of ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act. And so what I included in the handout that I emailed to you guys were both links out to ESSA, to where you can look on that site. And if you want to, then just do a search on the site for harassment and bullying, and they will show you that it does violate the civil rights of students who are victims of this. And it does happen all around the country and with other schools in varying degrees. And then I also included a link to the Iowa Department of Education website in that handout, and did the same search, and you can pull up information there. So I included a few print screens. The draft I put together for next month, I put enough print screens in, it ends up being 10 pages of those with only a few links. So I'm sorry for that when you get to it, but I wanted to point out that this is a problem. And if you could please start discussing this with some of your teacher meetings and training meetings, because what I want to give you next month are some proven programs that are possible to effectively address this. One of the things I have been talking about since I started here in the 1980s, when my kids started school here, because I was working on the open enrollment legislation. But as my kids got far enough along in school, I realized then how different everything was from when I was in school, and it was memorization and not concepts and applications and things like that. So then I started working on that. We got No Child Left Behind attempting to change it, but it wasn't until we got Dr. Clapper that Baxter actually began getting on track for that. So what I am suggesting is to actually begin discussing the fact that, yes, we have a problem. What we're doing is not as effective, and some kids are not getting full access to what could be possible for them if we were doing things a little differently. And that's what ideas for the instructors of how to work it in, so you aren't hiring anybody else, is fine. But to address it for now, I guess the only suggestion I have, but if your discussion would come up with something else, fine, would be maybe to involve some of the public in here in short shifts, just to watch over. For one thing, they would see some of what is happening that personnel don't always have time to see because they're busy teaching and classes and all of this. So the public would become more aware beyond just the families whose kids are, telling them what's going on in school that isn't being addressed, that is causing either physical, psychological, which harassment can do. And that could be a big help right there. What I'm really looking forward to is the handout I have for next month, beginning with a sample of some programs that have been put in place to very specifically address this and do it within the classroom so teachers can incorporate it. Just as what I was also trying to work into before then, and what we're doing where I teach for the University of Maryland, multidiscipline. So you work in aspects, concepts of multiple disciplines across your classroom, because it helps more students be able to relate to it that have different life experiences. This approach that I'm going to be giving to you next month works that same way. So teachers can be doing little things too. In other words, kind of step up within their classrooms that can also help them with what the concepts they're trying to teach to other students. So for right now, I'm just asking if you could please begin discussing it, and if it's possible to help involve the public a little more so they have a better idea and maybe aren't in denial or unaware of the fact that there are kids that need some additional help. That would be very helpful to a lot of these kids, because there are several of them that are telling their parents there's stuff going on, and the parents are telling other parents about it. So that would be very helpful.
Thank you.
I made my 3 minutes. I tried.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. Okay. Yeah, you guys
You're
are
just a watch.
all right. Move on to principal reports.
Yeah, that's.
Yep. So at the elementary level, obviously last month we had our conferences, and we had 98% attendance again this year. Hoping to get to 100% when we have our spring, but feel pretty good about where we are with the parent involvement and getting that many people into our building. And really just appreciative of our teachers for the work they do to put in for that night to make it an impactful event. It's really up to them to make sure that we're communicating what's going on in the classroom, and they do a really nice job. Also, Mrs. Hoffman had a agencies and organizations resource fair that night in the gym, and had a list of 17 different people to thank. So I'll share this with you guys so you can see exactly who's all to thank. I won't read through them all, but it was a huge success. She felt like they all reached out and said that they felt like they benefited from it. So something that she'd like to continue in the future, but and also thank to our custodians who were helpful in putting it up and taking down with that. So another success while we had conferences, a good event inside the gym for people to walk around. Last week we had our Veterans Day assembly. Greg did an awesome job putting that together, having them celebrating that, getting the entire school together. I hear it all the time. It's just, it's probably not something that every school can do. The fact that we can and we celebrate that event is great. And like he said, kids remember different parts of it. And so he did a lot of all of it, right? Just to make sure. So it's one that it is memorable. It's a memorable event for the way they put it on. So it was good and we appreciate that. One thing that we did do over our BLT, our building leadership team meeting over the last month, is revisit our goals from 22-23. And just wanted to see where we stood now that we had our new Iowa School Performance Profile out. And we did check off some things, which is positive and we're proud of. One of our goals was to increase the numbers of students proficient in both ELA and math. In 2022 in ELA, we were at 68.9% proficient. In 2023, we jumped to 71.43. And in math, we were 72.82 proficient in 2022 and 75.24 in 2023. So we were able to check that off the list as far as proficiency is concerned. We then started to set our goals for next year, looking at aiming for growth as opposed to proficiency. Another one of our goals was to implement and track interventions through our MTSS structure. So we have all these interventions in place, but making sure that they are being carried out with fidelity, making sure that we are making progress with that. And we took snapshots of, or I took snapshots of our system showing that we have percentages. We see what kids are receiving tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions. Those are all uploaded into our system so we can track that as the year goes on. So we were able to check that one off. The other ones we said were partially checked. We were proud of where we were. It was about revamping and revitalizing our assessment practices. So we put together a tracking system for all of our CFAs, formative assessments inside the classroom. So we're able to see exactly where kids are every single week and step of the way, which is something that was new and instituted last year. So we are all color coded by where they are within each skill in either one of their areas of subject areas. So we're proud of that. Still work to be done with that. So we want to refine that a little bit, but something that we thought we could check off the list. And then we really focused another one on our SEPMH domain and instituting some different things school-wide to make sure that we had tier 1 instruction in that area, that we were tracking interventions in that area, and started a student success team looking at different behavior type data as opposed to always looking at academic data. So we felt pretty good about where we stood with our goals for last year. And now we're focused on setting our goals for this year. So proud of where they are. Obviously, it comes down to the teachers and the work that they do. It wouldn't happen and we wouldn't check those boxes without them and the hard work that they put in. So appreciative of all the staff as they put all the hard work towards those goals. One thing that's coming up in the elementary is we're starting our giving tree. We just sent that out this last week. We've identified 15 families that we've sent the letter to and hope to help this holiday season. So we've got some things back that'll be put up into the office over the next week, and people within the community, teachers, anybody can come in and grab off the tree and help out with that. Some other things so I don't get too long. We had our glow stick dance party this last month, celebrating our CKH acknowledgement. So we were really focused on being, our motto was be the light, trying to teach kids how to be leaders and what leadership looks like. And then we celebrated that and the hard work that they put in over that, over last month with a glow stick dance party that has become a favorite. Our focus this month will be on, gratitude, and we'll focus on, an assembly for that later on this month. I won't go into the out of school performance, or should I? To hit on it, just I know it's a big.
I just want to make sure we talk about it. You two can talk about it.
Absolutely. So in the elementary, our overall rating is commendable. We went, we have a rating of 59.64, which is our highest since the report card came out. We've celebrated very much so at the elementary level. The state average is 54.81 at that. So above the state average, have a commendable rating, very close to that next step, which is high achieving. So we've set our goals to kind of reach that over the next year. Preliminary, knowing exactly what we have to focus on to get there. Our CFL data, our conditions for learning was 67.39, which was truly amazing. I mean, a score that's crazy. And it just shows the relationships are important here. Our kids believe that, our teachers believe that, our administration believe that. So the score is reflective of what we feel we have a strength in, and that's creating relationships, making sure we have a safe place for kids to learn. I think that's why those show the way they do. Again, the state average at that was 49.4. So we're at 67. We're well above the state average for our conditions for learning. So really proud of that. We celebrated that at our last staff meeting. It's a thing for the elementary that is a nervous time, but at the same time, we know we're doing the right work. So we feel like we should have the scores where they are. If you've been here long, right, and we know that many years ago, it was not this way, a comprehensive score. So going from that lens to now where we are today, obviously a lot of pride in where we've got what we put into place to be where we are, and know that the work's not done. We've talked about all the time. We are proud where we are, but we are not satisfied with where we are. So we'll continue to work and do the things we need to do to continue to grow. But proud of our teachers, all that they do to put in a lot of different things happening in elementary with behaviors and things that cause me stress. But even with me out or dealing with those, things still run. And that's what I'm most proud about, is that our teachers know what's going on, how to handle things, and they carry it out day to day. So proud of them.
What are some of the high things that you're gonna work on to increase?
For our
Yeah.
a big area for us, the weighting is our conditions for learning. So we'll have to continue to emphasize that. Making sure that we're putting those things in place and making sure that we're having a screener in place to make sure that we're still aiming towards that. That's weighted at 20% of our score. So that's a huge piece for us, which was probably a big reason for the score the way that it is. But the other area that we have to focus on is growth, and both ELA and math. That's 20% each. So thinking of switching our mindset from proficiency, getting kids to be able to get this mark, right, to now showing that all kids are having growth. Then that means that our highest achieving kids have to continue to achieve higher and higher. Otherwise they could actually hurt the score, even though they're proficient. You see how that kind of goes. So that's our main focus, is making sure we have things in place on the high and the low, and making sure that everybody in between is still achieving growth and having an impact.
But Rob scores the same way, ship here, but I think, having that high conditions for learning, that's gonna help learn the learning. Because the kids trust their teachers, they're gonna listen to them and be a little more engaged rather than kind of kind of heighten out, so I think that's just gonna lead to that growth, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Zach, their performance, but one is I think we really need to take a little bit of time. We look at some data. This is really important data. It is the one piece of data that everybody across the state can look at and say, how's Baxter doing versus everyone else? And I haven't dug into the elementary numbers. I see their overall numbers, his conditions of learning. I'm going to share some specifics for me. And then I know you guys have a link and get on that, but I'm a handout guy, so I'm going to give you two different handouts. The first thing we talk about these numbers, nothing's based on 100. So when you hear we're at 58, it's not based on 100. You have to see what the state average is and what each level is a little bit. My first one is going to be a little bit of longitudinal data from when we started with the report card. I think I have 9. So some of you that can flow through this online, that would be great. I copied 9 or 10. The top of this goes to 2018, which was the first year. So you'll see a score of 54.6. The next year in 2019, we went to 63.4 and was a high performing in one of the top schools in the state at the junior senior high. And I'm going to get to how you get to these numbers. Corey brought up a really good point about the conditions of learning and how we are graded and scored is a little different than the elementary. So 2021, you see we're at 58. In 2022, we went to 55. Still a commendable school, but you'll see our numbers drop. So this year we were back up to 58.31 and still commendable. If you look on the back side, you have that back side that tells you the weightings and the scores. You have that. I think that's important to say, well, we're looking at the data and HACCP was, what were you guys at, 59 something, 58 something, and we're 58. So our scores are about the same. But here is how we're rated. So if you can take a look, participation in our Iowa assessments in the spring is 5%. For math is 5%. You can see where the weighting percentages are. Well, number one for us is growth in math and ELA. It's 17%. Our post-secondary readiness, which is a part that I really want to, I'm going to talk about conditions of learning, but this is a really good number for us. And you say, well, why is it a good number? You really want to dig in, which I have read about when we're going to put scores against other schools. My coach hat comes on and says, how are we going to beat those schools around us? We have to know the rules that we're playing by. So on post-secondary readiness, our scores amplified huge because we are teaching so many dual credit post-secondary classes in-house. All of our junior seniors that are taking that AP post-secondary, we're doing some post-secondary through Mr. Teeslink in business. We're going to try to do those with Ag. One thing I would just urge any way, shape, continue to do those. It benefits our kids for sure. It also benefits the perception of our school of getting kids ready. Not just on college readiness, but it also looks at our CTE areas, which are ag, business, and family consumer science. And it looks at kids who have taken 3 years consecutive in those areas to focus on an area. So all of that is lumped in, and our score was really high compared to everyone else around us. I will say our conditions of learning score compared to every school that touched us, and even a little bit wider, and I don't want to share and talk negative about any other schools. Our condition or our performance profile was the second highest behind West Marshall's, and it was just a little bit. But every other school that touches us, middle school, high school, and then a little bit farther of the small schools, we were at the highest. If you take a look at the conditions of learning, Hass talked about 20%. So our conditions of learning is only 9%, but it is still an important 9. Sue just talked about bullying and harassment. If kids are not safe at school, if they do not feel good about walking into our building, the rest of this is really, really hard to score. Our conditions of learning was higher than any other school around us, higher than any school that I could find in the state of Iowa. So if we're talking about celebrating, I'm sure Hass's was off the chart too. That is a huge celebration. It doesn't mean we're perfect. And so then I thought, why don't I share how they score the conditions of learning? One, because Zach's was fantastic. Ours was better, and I'm not saying there wasn't a better school. I put it out on social media saying I couldn't find one, but I'm not gonna scroll down to every school. Elementaries tend to score a little higher than secondary. You probably know why, because elementary kids, it's not quite as prevalent in some of the things. But if you take a look at the conditions of learning, what they look at, you will see there's a composite score that ours was 52.89. You say, well, what does that mean? We know it's fantastic. The state average was 36. What I really like, it breaks it down with free and reduced. It breaks it down with students with disabilities, IEP, on how they scored. Then that's the composite. You can look at the adult-student relationship, the emotional safety in our school, the expectations of boundaries, physical safety, and student-to-student relationship. And then it starts breaking it down into different subcategories, grading. It's a lot of data, but it's actually pretty interesting data, especially at Baxter, where we know our population. So if our freshman class didn't score as high as everyone else, we know as we look at how to implement or what we need to do, where our areas are. Are they around IEP kids? Are they around freshman kids? Are they around the sixth grade kids? Are they the non-white kids? Are the IEP kids? So that's why this is really important. We also spent a full Monday with our staff looking at this data. Really proud of this data. Again, it's like the Iowa assessment. So I told our staff, instead of we're icing our elbow, patting ourselves on the back, it's one test on one day when you take the Iowa assessment test. I am not a standardized test guy. I've made that clear for 20 plus years. It's one day, one test, one measure. But everyone else is in that one day, one test, one measure too. The conditions of learning the same way. So when kids at state, it's about a 40-question survey that day. If that kid had a great day and had great friends and had a great lunch and the teachers asked him how he was doing, he may score that better than a kid who had a rough day and had an argument with somebody or somebody said something to him. So on that day for us, it was fantastic. Our kids felt really, really good about our building and our safety. Again, I thought it was important to take a look so we're real clear what the conditions of learning is, because you hear that all the time, and then put it into our Iowa performance profile. So our Iowa performance profile is just 9%. It's an important 9%. It's a percent that we can work on. My concern for next year. So I was like, well, really good. I will get out of here and let the next person handle the report card. But as my wife reminded me, no, you have one more year because we'll be taking all these tests in the spring. You may not be sitting around the table, but they will sure mention your name if the scores aren't very good. So we have a year to do this. I don't know that we can grow very much in performance profile. We can. But when you say there's not a school better than us, I don't know how much better we can get. Where we can grow is our math. Math growth, math students not that take the test, but our math growth, our math proficiency. Our ELA proficiency, like Hass at 71, we had 2 grades that were over 95% proficient, 6th, 11th, 12th graders. I mean, that's unheard of. Proficiency's here. So then you look at the growth. Our ELA growth is really good. I wouldn't say it's wow. We are concerned about our top end kids. So when we looked at our growth of all of our kids, we saw the most growth with our low to middle kids in the last year. Maybe not our, and not that all the really bottom kids are IEPs. We saw some growth. That's one thing that we're working on with our math. But our just around that proficiency growth kids were really high. I mean, we saw a lot of growth. So I don't know that we're focusing on those kids or what we're doing there specifically. Our top end kids were good, really good on a few, some dropped. But if it's like Hass said, if your top kids aren't also achieving at, it doesn't have to be the rate at the 30th percentile or the 40th, because there's less to grow, but they sure can't backslide and they sure can't stay flat because they just had a year in our school. They should be improving. So all that's put into a formula. But just in general, everywhere we are above the state average, except for it was either growth in math. I think it was growth in math in a couple of grades. And we're really close to the state average. We were focused on that. I talked about it last month. We've met again. We've changed some things with our 6th grade math. We've changed some things with our high. I mean, we are continually trying to improve. But again, it does come down to really a couple classrooms and people that are teaching math for the most part, and we're trying to provide them all the supports we can. But I think this is it's really interesting if you kind of become a numbers geek and to look at that website that I know we're gonna go to next because it's on the list. I just wanted to kind of celebrate. First of all, I usually talk about individual kids or programs. This is just our teachers and kids. Our teachers and kids did this and put us where we're at. So they, as a whole, just should be celebrated. But I think it's important to see how they're scoring us. So in the future, and what's really interesting, there's another drop down if you get to it on the side that's, I think it's called non-measured. You know what I'm talking about, House, on the, if you go, yeah, additional metrics. So you see on that additional metrics. And if you click on that and look, there's some really good data points on that are not things that were scored on, but we dug into those too. And I'm going to tell you, SIAC talked about it last week, and I will say again, staff retention is really below where we need to be. That's not scored on our performance profile, but it is one of the metrics. You want to hit that again? That's just so you can see. Post enrollment, state goals. I mean, science that's not scored, but should be. All those things that aren't performance profile scored, but they still keep them so we can see them year to year if we're growing in them, because those are educator effectiveness. Well, you know, that's really important. English language proficiency, some of it doesn't hit us, but I wanted to start with this to celebrate, kind of start talking about what these numbers say. And I know you're going to get into that website. You can go to every school every year, see where we're scoring. And I mean, what we used to be able to do was see how the conditions of learning was scored based on questions, and they no longer let us break that down, just like the ISASP used to do that. It was really beneficial. Don't know why, because they want to be secretive, to let us look at how we scored on certain test scores. We didn't do well, but what would we do? We would go try to make sure that we beef that up for next year, but they don't let us see that to the specific score, so they keep it hidden. I've seen the conditions of learning, and it is lots of questions that really are student opinion / how do you see these things. So we know our students for the most part see things really well. Doesn't mean when we have people below the bar, we still have kids that don't see things, and those are the ones we need to focus on, just like our math scores. But if you're looking as a whole, it's really good. So I want to take my time. I'm sure I'm over my time to really, this is where we've really been focused for the last 3 or 4 weeks and talking about it and where we can improve, because numbers don't lie. That you can say, oh, we feel good about Baxter. Okay, we do. These numbers are the real numbers. Now, how do you take those numbers and improve? So I don't know where you want to dig in after that, or specific questions that I can answer at all about our scores or how they come up with anything. I'm happy to do that.
So a lot of pressure for the first year math teacher.
Yep, so I can't remember if I've talked about it in multiple groups and maybe at the board, I don't remember. So I will say, we've been really good with one of them's brand new and one just year 2. So we're working with them that don't take this personally, although we all do take it personally. We know there's growth to be had, so use that as an exciting thing that I'm coming into. It's like we always talk about following bad coaches or teams we want to follow an 0-9. Those are great jobs to have, because whatever you do, you're improving. So not that we're at 0-9 in our math, but you know, we know we can grow. Take that as a positive. So it is hard though, because the ELA and the reading and technical read, there's a lot of things you can teach in every classroom that may affect our ELA scores. If they're writing in classes, if they're doing technical reading, if they're doing vocab, a lot of things. We're working with our math consultant on some things, and there are a few things that we can do, but let's be honest. I mean, those math problems are going to get done in the math room. That's where we're going to learn the concepts and how to, work those problems. So it is pressure on them, but we understand that we're trying to support and say we're all in this together with Ed Wilson as a math support, with Dennis, with myself, with our math consultant. I mean, we're all around Wendy saying, hey, we're in this together. Yeah, you got the 42 minutes, but how can we help you? Or even our tier 2 interventions, or what can we do after you pulled and helped? What can we do next? So if you run into a little bit of a brick wall, and what we do next with just staffing, it's a problem. But we're really spread thin with that 10% of kids that just need a lot of extra help. PASS has interventionists title. I mean, we do all of that, but we we all try to take little chunks, and when you take a little chunk, it's not as good as some just focused on. But yeah, we're aware those two probably are feeling a little pressure, or we're just trying to motivate.
Yeah,
Also, could you just ask a question? First of all, I love the additional support of the changes that you made last, or starting in 5 years here, because it's really made a lot of difference, especially with my grandson with ADHD. That support has been very helpful. My question is, because I have written permission to interact with the instructors, to ask some questions from time to time. To what extent are the teachers informed of things going on with students that you might be aware of, so they don't misinterpret something that they're looking at? It might be helpful for them to have maybe a slightly different response if they had a little more information, and I don't know what restrictions might be here that you aren't able to do that. So I thought it could be helpful, but aren't able to make it helpful.
The really big ones I usually ask parents, what can I share, you know, when we're dealing with some abuse at home or suspected, those things are a little dicier. If a kid's just, let's just say they have a pain issue, any student would, those are easy to say, list, the things that we know, all that the nurse sends out, that any of those things, it's the social emotional that's a little dicier about what we can't share. My go-to is I just usually ask a parent, guardian. I think it would help if we let them know that they've switched households and they're driving from McCallsburg every morning. Those are things that are important to know. So if we know, we usually ask if we can share that with the teachers. So. Other things on any of them?
is there any, because really the Iowa Performance Profile, I put it on there.
I apologize, I didn't see it, and I just.
So you didn't talk about it. I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it, but I figured they both would.
An
So-
FFA was on my list to start, and then they're coming next month, but I
Yeah.
talked to Anna, she had a conflict, the kids could have came, and she kind of actually
really
wanted to
wants
be
to
here.
be here.
It was a really good trip, and I'd like you guys to see, and there's some awesome for a first year teacher stuff going on there, so she's gonna come next. She can eat up half as much.
So I don't have anything extra to add. We were just really pleased as far as the performance profile. It's just great to see that trajectory from where we started 6 years ago to where we are today. It's pretty exciting to see the growth.
You saw those numbers, I mean, I'm again, Coach, we put our goal in our building to be at 60 next year. So we're 58 point, we've been over 60 one time, and we've dug in where it's, somebody asked, where can we build those numbers? I looked at 2 or 3 of these cells to say, this is where we can get over 60, even if everything else stays the same. I will say down the road, as I look at graduation rates as one, we may take a little bit of a hit over the next couple of years with that. We have some kids who COVID online, decided to stay online, not getting things done, aren't in attendance, or were in attendance and decided to go online. Travis and I met yesterday. It's at our level, it's 3 or 4 kids can make a pretty, instead of a 96%, we're at a 90 or 89, and is grad rate not on there?
Yeah.
Probably.
Look at it.
I know.
Why is this so much more than the elementary?
Because they don't have opportunity for post-secondary readiness. They
Yeah.
don't have the grad rates. They don't
Oh,
have
okay.
a couple of these others. So that, like if Pat showed you his would have about 7 things where I have 11.
Yeah,
But
okay.
They just don't have those. So they just bump up the conditions of learning and make it more. And again, Hass's is 3, 4, 5. Yep. Everything there is everything that if his performance profile is grades 3, 4, 5. And I will say, we know we muddled through that ESSA designation, and then we got those kids and got that math with IEP designation. When those kids came to us, I've been over the moon knowing those kids that came through, no finger pointing at all, but those are the same kids we inherited, and we've made it work. Some of it's the work they did with the 3rd graders, and they had them for 2 years, but we have now all 3 of those grades are with us. That was in that year, wasn't an asset. So, I mean, even if we dipped, I mean, we know we don't want to, but our clientele with those groups we have a really good Was last year's eighth grade. So they will stay strong for the next 2 or 3 years of math and ELA. They're that class. It helps everybody because they're just a really high achieving freshman group.
That is good to know, though, the whole ESSA. I didn't even think about that those kids are now up in,
I think it's
I mean,
7, 8.
well, I mean, when you go in there, let's be
6,
real.
7, 8.
Everyone that went in and looked at that, obviously, we're looking at the surrounding areas and, oh, where are we compared to? I mean, we all did, but I didn't even think about and saying, oh, wow, what a great job we did. But taking that
That's
into
great.
account, that's even, yeah.
This would have been all 3 of our 18. What they're doing down there will pay unbelievable dividends at the secondary. Because I've seen it they are making gains down there. And when you do that, where we start with, you know,
It's fun to watch when you go in there.
our six, we have, and our six, Kristen's, that's her favorite group, maybe she's at her time, but almost, and she's back on state. If that group, so they're coming in so ready and
You think part of that, I mean, I don't know, not to make it personal, but I mean, has being an instructional coach, and does that have a lot to do with that? Having been,
you won't say that, but I'll.
right,
Yeah, he's way more of an educational
Right.
leader than I am. I can manage, I can discipline, I can
We got
communicate.
that.
Okay.
Well, and if you see some of those elementary, like the PLC training we've done, like, there's a couple of PLCs that I've sat in, and I mean, they could be model PLCs. I mean, they just could, you could video them and put them on the Solution View website. They're so good. Our secondary too, but there's some elementary groups that are just killing it. They are doing, like, it's just fun to watch and just listening to their conversations about data and kids and which groups, and it's cool to see.
Data drives. I mean,
Yeah.
we're behind there. It's harder at the secondary level because everybody just has their own classroom data where they're all partnered, but data is driving what's happening, which has helped us. It's moved us a little bit more in some of our conversations and meetings about, I mean, this data is really good for us to look at and say, where are we at? Where are we missing? You know, they do that every day.
Any questions while we're looking through there?
Well, one of the next newsletters, do you think feature some of this? News.
We sure can, yeah.
Get it out
Really
there.
good.
Yeah.
I put it on Twitter, 5,800 people saw it. So
Anybody's still on Twitter.
it's X now. I don't know Tiki Tac, but I know. Insta.
you're killing it in technology.
Oh,
Yeah. Thumbs.
so I didn't pull that down. It's extreme.
Bill next month. Yeah, Rob's. for that.
Now having a Google Calendar.
Yes,
I
you
just-
are. We're gonna be talking to Franklin, your last
I
Franklin.
have them all from 1897 on that thing. Look at every note you want.
Good info. Yeah. So we'll move on to the SBRC application.
So this is, and Julie, you can chime in too, but we had a slight increase in open enrollment out. So we could ask for funding for those kids. So it's just the 15,541.60. And so we go to the SBRC and ask for the additional authority for the money.
That's for this year.
Yeah. So then if we approve that tonight, then we'll upload it these minutes to the SBRC, or to the department's website.
So we should do a roll call.
Any questions?
I make a motion, we approve the MSA application for 2023 year.
I second.
Second, roll call?
John Northrop,
Yes.
Debbie Meyer,
Yes.
Colette Kunkel,
Yes.
Kim Ticky.
Yes.
Cory Bucks.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's been approved. Move on to the K-12 English language learners plan.
So I haven't changed anything, from last year. We just have to have a plan. We don't currently have any English language learner students, so, we have one in case some ever move to our district or enroll here. But, the plan is the same plan we've had. At least since I've been. For a long time.
We have a motion to approve the plan. Second. Favor say aye.
I,
Say no. Plan's been approved. About the teacher and paraeducator apprenticeship plan.
Yep, so this is the apprenticeship grant that we have through the Department of Education. And we're partnered with Newton and a couple other local districts. And so we send our teachers' aides to William Penn to become to get their teaching degrees. And we have one student in the program right now, and then we have another one that's joining, like we're getting the paperwork worked out for him to join. And so we get reimbursed for all of their tuition. And then the district also gets reimbursed half of their salary. Yeah, so it's a pretty good deal. It's a great deal for the student because then they can, while they're working as a para, can also get their teaching degree. And they have to take classes like in the evenings and stuff, but they can do a lot of their hands-on training right here at school. And so we've got a gal in the elementary that's doing it. And then we have a fella, first year para, who's also doing it at the elementary. And then when they're done, they'll both have, I think they're both doing special ed degrees. They'll either be elementary or special ed. So it's really a good program.
Did we start with a few more interested
We
in it?
did,
Yeah,
and
okay,
then
that's
over
good.
time, people kind of
Yeah.
fizzled out.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's a big commitment.
it's I think it's like a 4-year commitment unless you take some like summer, it's kind of like any other college program, you can take some of the summer. And like the guy that's doing it, he had taken quite a bit of college classes and then like took a break or whatever, for whatever reason, and is now getting back into it. So he has a lot of his degree done. So it's just kind of finishing up for him. Yeah. Anything you want to add, Julie?
And we've been in it for a year,
Yeah,
so
We just
we're
have to
just starting
renew
our.
that.
It's a federal program, so. A lot of hoops you gotta jump through.
It's basically trying to increase our pool of
Right.
teachers.
Do we have something in place then to retain the teacher after they complete their education, kind of like we do with teachers already that are getting
We did not.
their degrees? Okay.
Good job. But if we, because we have kind of as a county, all the groups are, and we kind of talked about that. And
Mhm.
we said, as small as some of us are, we may or may not have an opening. And we wouldn't want to say, well, you have to work at Baxter. I mean, probably will have an opening, but we'd hate to lock it in and say you have to work at Baxter first. And then if there was an opening at Newton, Livo Solely, and then they, so we just all kind of had an agreement that we would hope they would stay with us.
Okay.
But there's no like formal.
Yeah.
It's not
That
like
makes
we're really taking money out of our
Right.
budget.
We're not.
Help, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of a benefit.
Actually,
to
we're-
us,
we're
so-
Making money
Yeah,
on them.
yeah.
Because we get half of their salary reimbursed to us. So the more that take it on would actually be better for us.
A good incentive to share with new parents, right? For
Yeah.
hiring.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Find where to be.
Right,
Yeah.
That one,
I know
that
it's a big
that
commitment.
commitment.
It is, yeah. It's a big commitment to work full time and then also be in school.
In school, yeah.
And if you have any kids, you gotta put that. a lot.
You have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between them? Have a second?
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Been approved. The open enrollment?
So we have Eric and April Parks for their son, Dave. Third grade from Newton for next year. And then we have Amanda Taylor for her son Graham, who's in second grade. He's already here, so this is just a paperwork issue. And then Adam and Tatum Callenberg for their son David and Weston. David seventh grade, Weston third grade from Newton, and then Charity Callenberg for her children. Juvia in third grade and Lucas eighth grade, and they are new. And the Callenberg kids are started, like they're this year, they're enrolling now. So we just need to approve those. So that was 4 new kids this last couple of weeks, and then that was, you know, unfortunately it's past the October first count day, but we're glad to have, yeah.
We do believe though that,
We should get money from the district they're coming for prorated for the
That's
year.
what we've heard.
that's what we're, I have an email to the DE right now to make sure that I heard that correctly, but, I have heard that in my classes, and so, you just prorate it, you per DM, so, because I'm sure when I build the other districts, they're gonna come in glued, so I just want to make sure I have my ducks in a row.
Bill them the full year.
Yeah, where are they coming from?
They're all there, they're all new.
Well, I mean, you know, I got 4 right off the bat from Newton, so I mean, you're talking $30,000 that they
Right.
probably weren't planning on sending to us.
Well, no, I was kind of joking. If they were coming from Bondurant or somewhere,
Yeah.
maybe they wouldn't even notice.
I don't know, those business managers like come over their open enrollment bills.
We have a motion to approve the open enrollment. Second.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Open enrollment applications have been approved. For facilities, grounds, and transportation.
Well, I put it under my superintendent report, but I could probably move it up to facilities and grounds. Bill and I met with a lady from the solar company, that John had talked about. And so, it sounds pretty interesting, pretty promising. So, they walked around and sounds like if we qualify, they would probably put the solar panels on the roof of the school. So Julie's working on getting the monthly bills to them, and then we have to get like the meters to them. And then Bill and this gal walked around and took pictures. They need like square footage of the buildings and stuff. And from what we understand, if we qualify for this, there's no cost to the district. And then we just get these solar panels and it lowers our bills, but they have to like run some calculations. And then after they run all these calculations, then we have another meeting and we'll like have some of you sit with us and actually talk through it, like, okay, let's find out if this is like for real. And they said, you know, there's a lot of schools that already have them, but then even the solar technology changes so rapidly that even people who already have solar from like a couple of years ago, this program is even better because the solar technology is better, I guess. So, I mean, it seemed like a pretty good idea, but we'll have to see, like, we'll just have to see once they actually like run the calculations. And she said there's a farm program too, just so you know, that like you can get a good percentage. I don't know, maybe you guys were your farm, I don't know, but anyway, there's also a farm program that you can get solar for your farm. So that's the solar update, I guess.
Under facilities, has Bill gotten any more bids on like the garage doors, the hail damage?
I think he's working on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe if he could give us like a
Yeah,
report next
I'll get that,
meeting.
yep.
And see on the, I guess the other thing was, what was it, the bus barn,
Yeah.
north wall on that, try to get it covered too.
Just all the stuff that we talked about
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
Email him in the morning. And I'll just, when he sends it, I'll just pass it on to you guys. I mean, we can maybe talk about it next month too, but I'll pass it on to you. as soon as I get it. Let's roll into superintendent report. Is there any other?
Any updates, Julie, on the suburban van trade or?
No, it's been crickets. I thought that maybe I would reach out to him again, just to make sure that we're still in the forefront of his mind. I've talked to Kevin just recently and now I'm kind of torn about. We could potentially need another bus. One of the ones that we're using is getting up there, and I think we're on the schedule for a van or a vehicle for this year. So, and we already have this one, the suburban thing in the works, so.
Is he looking that we're gonna have another bus route or just because one's getting tired of mileage?
The one's
Because
getting,
we actually dropped
right,
a route, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
To me, that should free up one of those buses.
yeah, we just, we haven't replaced a bus for a while.
Right.
And we pushed some off for a while. And we have one van for sure that is getting up there, so we really need to.
To me, the vans would be more, I think they get more use than.
They do
If
it
we
this
got a
way.
bus, to me, we've essentially got a spare, so
Right.
yeah, big deal if one goes down. We
Yeah,
got a spare sitting
Right.
there.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
to me, we could maybe put off the bus for
Yep.
another year or two. So,
Yep.
I know we got behind an 8 ball years ago, but.
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of a different time right now where we don't have
yeah,
as many routes.
yeah, I think it's, while we're trying to get a larger van with the suburban, there may be another van that we need to replace as well. So, and a bus not coming, too far behind it. So we sort of alternate buses with the vehicles on our 3-year rotation. And it's a vehicle turn right now. I would imagine by the time that the bus turn comes that we'll be ready, because it seems like there's just one that keeps. There's quite a bit of rust on it, and if they happen to put it out of service, it's probably gonna cost us quite a bit to replace that.
Does rust get caught on the bus inspection?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And Kevin said he was a little bit surprised that they hadn't yet, so.
Little spray paint on me.
Thing.
Right, so we do need to approve the drill dance team overnight stay in Des Moines on November 30th. They're gonna stay the night. So since it's an overnight, the board needs to approve that. So we just need some.
I'll make that.
Second.
Favor side,
Aye.
say no. Approved.
Take a couple notes from Mr. Vaughn, just information for the board. Corey and I kind of talked about this. I don't think it needs board approval. I think it just is for your information. But they are gonna raise the rates at middle school events from $2 to $3. This corresponds to the increase in admission at high school events from $5 to $6, beginning with winter activities. And then they're also going to start charging for streaming winter sports. So just so people know, the district gets, if we stream, we get 60% of the cost. So when we charge, if we charge $10, we would get $6, but $4 of that has to go directly to Huddle, the company that owns the cameras. So we are gonna recommend charging $8 per game for streaming, or you can get a subscription, $20 a month or $100 for a year. Because $100 is how much our sports activity pass costs for a family or for a person. So that's just an informational thing. We just, with the tight budget with our activities, but our fund. We just know we've got to find ways to recoup some of that money. And just looking at the number of views of some of the games, I mean, we're leaving a ton of money on the table by people just watching the events for free, streaming it rather than coming to the event and paying at the door. So
You explained it pretty well the other night, why we can't just put it on YouTube anymore.
Yeah,
We can. We can. I
We'd have
spent
to
2
get-
hours on it.
but we'd have to get
because-
different cameras. We'd
We'd
have
have
to get
to use
someone to
different
run the
cameras.
cameras. We wouldn't be able to use the huddle cameras. We can't use the huddle cameras, the ones that follow the game activity. And stream that live through YouTube anymore. That ended like October 31st or something like that.
so cameras that we currently pay for, or the boosters help support of $8,000, we would not be able to put on YouTube anymore. We have to use their streaming platform, the Huddle platform, so the links will change. To no longer a free upload to YouTube, it would be a link to the Huddle streaming service or what have you, and then we have to decide if that's a free service or not, and that would be what we're sitting and talking.
And I think Huddle's just, I'm like the anti-Huddle guy right now for a lot of reasons. I talked to a Huddle rep and they've been not sure who I was that I didn't have Huddle. They told me they are not charging 40%. Because I said, what do I want to know if I want to put in this full package into my school? And he was, yeah, and then you can stream all you want. That was straight from a Huddle guy to me tonight, because I've heard some other schools that are dealing with different amounts, they're paying Huddle. And I just think Huddle, I'm frustrated with
But
Huddle.
what are you gonna do? And because they're the only, pretty much, aren't they now? I
Well,
mean,
I think we're in the half.
right. I
There's
mean, we are,
Huddle cameras, so. you know,
right.
There's different, yeah, and we have these 2 Huddle cameras up, so now but I don't know, I think I would grab a rep and say, why are you getting 40% of something we've already paid 8,000 for? And then, yeah, I just question.
They just have a bit of a monopoly right now.
They do.
Well, that's what I'm
They
saying.
do.
They have monopoly. What would be our?
Plus, we're wanting bigger, sounds like, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, because.
Because-
And the bad part is, it's the
Because
the
then I
big
asked,
schools are paying the same
So,
thing
and-
we are, and
the bigger schools are paying more.
they are.
So is it according
Oh.
We had a meeting last week and it is, but they're not, it's not like most places, it's like a car dealership. So, well, if we can't get you for 12,000, what do you think about 10,500 for the first year? They're all playing dirty games on this
Oh,
Huddle. Because
Okay,
our football coach association just had a meeting last weekend and this was a monster. Now, one person was saying, yes, Huddle is close. We may get to that we're gonna charge you. It's not now, but it may get to that. Then they were told, but if you have sponsorships, then that's just something that you guys can work on and you can put it out there. So you're gonna pay your 8,000 for Huddle. And then long as you're not charging people to watch, if you find somebody else to put it, if you want to charge $500 for, Kunkel Construction that will do the football season,
Right.
then you can do it for free. But it's who you're talking to, and because I'm talking to ADs that are talking to.
Contract? I mean, what's in the contract that we?
This is what
Replace
I
it,
got
but-
from our athletic director. So
It seems.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of ADs and I said, well, I think you need, because he came back from that meeting today and there's 4 or 5 people that are doing Huddle. Collins Maxwell is going immediately in the winter, is the only school that's gonna charge. I said, is Huddle charging them? He goes, I don't know that, because the other schools are still going to just stream the games on Huddle this winter. So that's what they decided. They're doing the sponsorship, so trying to find somebody, we can do $200 a basketball game, so if you can find, somebody, even a personal, the Tiki Family Fund would do 200, we can do. Because the other.
So I'm confused with the Huddle and the boosters paying 5,500 for those sponsorships. Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking something different?
If,
So
So we're
they-
then for sponsorship
I'm
for
not
2
saying-
You
different.
get to do like ads. You can put an ad on Huddle. On
Like
the
a
streaming.
commercial.
Yeah,
Okay.
commercial.
Okay, but then
I think the 50.
boosters
you
get
speak of
boosters gets money for
That's a
sponsorships
different, I think.
different.
from Huddle.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's from Huddle. No,
from.
No,
no, okay.
I think the 55 you speak of is the money that they help support the entire package of Huddle that we purchase,
Okay,
which is the camera, which is all the tools, all the other things, right?
so I just received a check from the boosters for a quarter of sponsorship. What's that?
That's the varsity bound sponsorships. So when you purchase a varsity bound sponsorship, we get X percent is 25% per sponsor. That is of what tiers, pure hurricane or whatever, the top two
Right.
tiers, we get a percentage of their sponsorships.
Okay. So Boosters is running the Go Bound sponsorship program and the Huddle.
We have no huddle spot.
No huddle.
No huddle sponsorship.
It's just $8,000.
Okay.
The Booster Club paid.
Just helping us
Because
pay.
they wanted that, they
Okay.
paid, it. So we're,
Okay.
the difference is we always would have paid, because we get huddle scouting, all the sports use. huddle.
Okay, because I keep getting a bill from Huddle for $2,500 that I refuse to pay for sponsorship. And this is the one where I told you that they said, well, according to your coaches, they say they need this. And before, we've just paid the $500, which is what we've paid so far, because I'm refusing to pay the 2,500. But they just keep sending me a bill, and they must have sent it to Amanda this last time, because it ended up in the bills, and I got rid of it because I'm not paying it.
Well,
Is that the difference?
I'm understanding back when we started, like football was $500 and then we fundraise for them, then the school paid it because everybody has to have this. This has nothing to do with the cameras. This is just our huddle software.
Yes.
So then my understanding is when the Booster Club wanted the cameras, we went to an all-in package for $8,000 that included everything we do. So there should be no other bills under than $8,000 a year for huddle. That I'm not sure what the Booster Club's paying.
It's 20.
They paid the 55 and we
It's
paid
25
25.
is our
But
share.
then that should be the only bill
Okay.
we have with huddle.
Okay.
There is
So
no
it
extra
should
on
be
top of
paid.
that.
You should.
I'm not paying it.
Okay, don't.
Well, like,
But did the boosters pay the 55 and we owe 25?
No, we paid the whole 8,000.
Oh, then we shouldn't
The
pay
whole 8,000, but I'm
anything.
still getting a $2,500 bill from Huddle, and they say, well, according to the people that we've talked to at your district, you need this.
Ask
And so
them-
that's the sales,
Yeah,
which is what I think.
Because I would like to send them to me, because I would like to talk to this. Huddle rep.
I was gonna
It's
say, it
email.
doesn't sound like that.
And I'm frustrated by this, so that's why I just see this and go, I wouldn't give Huddle 40% of jack crap
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
I just need it.
we require.
I know, I was gonna use a different word, use crap.
Gonna be like the
I'm fine, yeah. I'll back off.
People with box, fabulous. If we have to give some of it to Huddle, if that's part of the.
Why should they get any though? I would think if we paid for the whole package.
Yeah.
And
They're not gonna get any money, you
Right.
know,
Right.
they're not gonna get any
We're
money.
gonna just give them 40%, like if they
That's like a
say,
shakedown on their part.
Negotiations.
well,
You need to see a contract.
we'll
But
get a
you know,
contract, but in
I
the
would love
meantime,
to
we
see
wanna
a
charge
contract.
$8 per stream per game, and then $20 a month, and $100 for the subscription. And we'll just put that right in Rob's pocket to hold on to until he gets this sorted out.
No.
I'm
But
gonna
what's the
Yeah.
contract?
give it,
Yeah.
so I know I'm in the huge minority of that. I'd find somebody else.
Well,
We'll see how many clicks we get.
right, well, maybe if they don't wanna pay $8, they can just come to the game.
So I hope to get her from Scottsdale.
Well, you can log in for $8 when you're retired. Watch the game.
So can you ask Dennis for
That's
the
good.
copy of your contract?
What's that?
Yes.
Hopefully he hasn't signed it yet. Normally,
Help me remember that tomorrow.
I haven't seen anything.
Help me remember.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know, but have any of the boosters, have they talked to Huddle at any point, or is this just all to them? Because at that meeting, they seem to know more about it than, so, yeah,
Yeah, they seem to know all about
they
it.
seem
They're
to
the
know a
ones.
lot
Maybe
about
they
it.
have to
Well, it could be because Jason.
That's why I'm just,
Is
I was
who
just wondering. I
sent
don't,
the bills, not the $2,500 bill, but the $8,000 bill, because it was set up through boosters,
Jason Hill.
Jason Hill. And so they had this conversation about who was gonna pay them and who's gonna pay who, and I said, send me the bill. So I can look at it and I'll take care of the responsibility of paying the bill, but I need you guys to pay me, which they did, which is all fine, but it all started out on the booster side. So I'm kind of coming
We're seeing
in
it.
back.
That 8,000 is all in now. We can start, there's a lot of, don't know about charging tickets and all of that stuff, if they're getting 40% or any of that. But the 8,000 should be all in for everything we want to do prior to charging. There is no extra. It's if you broke it all down, it's like a 13,000. They call it retail, like, yeah, when you go see the sticker in the car. And then they're giving it to us because that's the guy you got. But I will say,
got them on discount.
we just got parade. The schools I talked to tonight were all 8. They were small schools. Dallas Center Grimes was markedly over 8. But, you know, he then said they wanted me to pay 21 and ended up at 15. So it's like, well, there's negotiation.
Because we've heard 2 different stories, because we heard that it's 8 no matter what.
Yeah,
whether
where you're at, Southeast
or
Coast,
They
it
tried to
doesn't
tell me
matter.
that, and I just told them tonight, I just sat in a meeting this weekend and it's not.
Where are they located and who is the in charge?
It's a national company.
Offshore.
So they just have like representatives like for different districts?
Started them out, I think it's an Omaha-based company, but yeah, they're huge now. I mean, Puddle's huge, monstrous. I don't know, they have a Quick Cut might be the only rival to them as far as film. So.
Like NFHS has where they would have brought the cameras in and it cost like my friend Van Meter, I think it's $1,500 a year. He signed a 5-year contract that they had to pay $1,500 a year for NFHS to do that. And then they got 50% of the ticket sales on NFHS. He goes, the crazy thing, we didn't even recoup our $1,500. I mean, nobody's paying the money on NFHS to watch them games.
Oh, it's gonna be a tight thing to.
So I just have to
monitor.
add, muddy the water even more. We're getting proceeds back from like 2 different companies that we started streaming on and some of our community members are still paying that subscription because we're getting the kickback for it. I just got a check for $100.
NFHS.
It's called something else, Go Media. But I think it used to be NFHS or it's a DBA or something like that.
You must have played a game sometime that the only way to get that was sign up and that's how they get you.
We've gotten it every,
Oh,
every
well,
2 or 3 different times.
This month, I forgot they bill me again, and, you know.
And it doesn't tell me anything. It just sends
It
me.
had to have been something that somebody signed up probably for a game that we had,
Right.
probably on the.
Oh,
Years back, I think, and because I'm getting them from Go Media, and then there's one that's called 2080 Media. Never heard of them. But
I just had her by the time Trice was in 4th grade, and now just like, I think you was a senior, when I realized I was still paying this math subscription. You know that house?
I do it.
I think I paid $10,000 for some stupid math game that Trice. I went through high school though. He's helping those math scores somewhere. I don't know. So anyway, okay, that's our Puddle charging.
It seems like every meeting we go through this huddle thing.
Let's see, what else is on there? SiAC, we already talked a little bit about SiAC. We were a little disappointed, we had a real, Kim was there, we had just a really small crowd. It was administrators, Wendy led it, Kim was there,
Nancy Foreman.
Nancy Foreman, Jen Andrade. Jen and Nancy and were the only like non-school people, and Kim kind of. And then Jeremy Moffett was there. So, I mean, great feedback, great people. We just didn't have a big crowd. And again, like Rob mentioned, one of the big things we talked about was just staff retention. It's just super tough. And we see that that's a huge issue is just staff retention. So we were kind of brainstorming ideas for that.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? I just got a call or an email back from Cassandra Klein at the DE. And we can charge per diem for open enrolled students in.
Oh, good. Great. Thank you to everyone who helped with the resource fair. Zach already mentioned that, but it was a really great night.
Sounds like having it on Tuesday was wildly beneficial. I don't come to conferences on Tuesdays because I don't want to wait in line to talk to a teacher. So I didn't go to the resource fair, but it sounded like from talking to all the teachers that we did see on Thursday night, there were a ton of people here in the building. So even if they happened to just pop into that, I think that was good timing to have it on Tuesday.
That's kind of what we thought when we set it up for Tuesday. It's just, it seems like that first night is the big night for conferences.
Yep.
So we thought that would be the ideal night to do it. So we're excited about that, and big thanks to Mrs. Hoffman and Mr. D and just everybody who helped with that, custodians. Looking forward to the convention on Thursday and getting to know the new board members. That'll be fun and interesting and a big adventure for us. I'm not so crazy about the 6:50 in the morning
That's fine.
Not a,
What?
I don't know.
Starts at 8. But we always seem to walk in late
Late,
and we
yeah.
can't find a table.
Yeah.
So
You wanna be the, for the
Oh,
opening
so Julie's
session.
cracking the whip.
I am,
Julie's
I
cracking
usually
the
say 7, and so I'm moving it up
So
to
meet here
6:50.
at 6:50.
Meet here at 6:50, and I'm like, I'm honoring anyone who wants to drive that big old van or Suburban,
a
besides
van.
me.
It's a van.
John or Corey usually do, but like anyone's welcome. Ashley, if you want to drive the van, it's good. I'm always happy to hand off the keys to someone else to drive that big thing. I don't like drive Trent's big pickup, so,
And then we'll meet up at B's place.
and then
around
Pete's place around 5,
So-
and, you can bring your spouses if you'd like. Just have dinner and chit chat, get to know each other a bit. Let's see. Oh, we went to the Solution Tree, leadership training, and that was Zach and I and Rob and Wendy and Dennis. And it's the PLC Institute for Leaders. And so it's just a nice refresh. It's been a good learning thing. We kind of feel like, oh, we wish there was like teachers here, because it's such good stuff that we hate that we're just the only ones hearing it, but it's for the leaders. And so, then we take what we learned at that institute and bring it back. And it's 6 sessions. So we've done the first 4 sessions now, and then the final 2 sessions, I believe, are January. And so Dr. Anderson sits with us in the morning, and then sits with Colfax Mingo in the afternoon, and then the next day she swaps it. So we, because she shares both districts. So, and then we're both there. So it's really good learning. Just a reminder to everybody and Sue and the new board, we move our December meeting from December 20th. We move it up to December 13th, just because it gets so close to Christmas and things get crazy. So we just try and get it done sooner. So it'll be 6 o'clock, December 13th.
And I'm supposed to be grading everything, because that's the end
Oh,
of our
finals for
semester,
your-
and I have
yeah.
3 days in which to
Yeah.
turn in final grades. Yes, I knew you were doing that.
Yeah, sorry, Sue. Well, you can always refresh us in January with your
Yeah.
part 2 if you need to. Do we want to go into that personnel stuff?
Well, we can go ahead and approve the resignation.
So we have a resignation. Oh, go ahead. Move on to personnel. Any questions? Sorry.
So excited.
I know, can't wait to get to these personnel, I guess. So resignation from Cole Wilson as assistant high school softball coach. Should we do, let's do them separate. So we'll do the resignation first.
Take the resignation. Go on. Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say no. Resignation's been accepted.
And then Jared Nichols as a volunteer, approved Jared Nichols as a volunteer high school boys basketball coach pending coaching certification.
Who is that?
He's a para, he's actually the para that's gonna do the teacher thing. He graduated from Colfax Mingo around the same time as Will.
He's a year older.
So in between volunteers maybe? Or is he older than-
A year older than Will.
Okay, so graduated in 18. And then I think he played college basketball or something, college football for a bit somewhere.
Midland, Nebraska, I think.
And then now he's working for Mr. Housebrink in the elementary as a para with one of our kiddos. And then he's getting his teaching degree. So,
Yeah, he is unique because I think he has a teaching degree in Nebraska, but it doesn't, some of the classes don't
Oh,
transfer
yeah.
over. So he couldn't get licensure in Iowa, so he's going back to get the courses that are needed to get the Iowa accreditation. So I feel like he has a minor in coaching.
He does,
Yes.
but he also
But he
thinks
has
that
to.
he doesn't need a license for it,
No,
but he does. Can you help him out with that?
Yes.
You have talked since I told him that. Okay, thank
Yes, he
you.
does.
so he's one we want to keep around. He's a good guy. And so, apparently wants to coach for us.
Motion to approve Jared's coaching.
Someone.
Second.
Second.
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
No. Approved. Okay, so from here, we'll move on to an exempt session. In a closed session for the board to discuss employment with their employees. So at this time, we'll
I'll make a motion to go into exempt session.
Oh, second.
favor say aye. Aye. Say no. One session at 7:20.
Anybody want to break or anything?
Before I step out, I just want to say goodbye to the three of you who will not be here next time, and
Yeah.
thank you so much for all the
Thanks.
years that you've
Sure.
served on the board.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam.
We'll see you other 3 in the morning.
Yeah, on that side of this.
Come on out here. Usually we park right out here.
You can come in right into the doors. We'll probably just gather inside here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll see you.